Good morning. I'm going to summarize what we're doing today, which mostly focuses on the project that I introduced yesterday. I'm going to clarify a couple of points. If you have questions, I think that you should be able to hold them. It's going to be probably difficult for me to answer them via email, so probably hold them off. I think you can. I think you can start enough progress on this without without holding off on your questions. If you need to write them down, that's fine. But it's going to be difficult for me to answer them not verbally. Not ideal that I had begun today, but I had a meeting. It is what it is. Here I am from the home office. If you're capturing my screen, you can see the time. Those of you interested, behind my head. Oh, sorry. Ironing board comes out of the wall. It's exciting. All right. Time to hide my fat head and get to business. Okay. So, choice project. Remember that you had 3 different choices for things that you could do, and remember this is a biggie. 3 learning targets. One is the video and newspaper. So let me clarify a couple things with that. Number 1 is that on the causes, the events, the explanation of why they were important, the sources, you can use in creation of the newspaper front page where you have headlines, images, captions, articles like a main event or some main headline article and two additional articles, and it can incorporate what's recorded in the summary video above, especially with the main events. So you can use this as your visual. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of legal use of AI here. So I'm going to pull over a chat summary that I had, right? Summarize and cite 3 sources on the cause of World War I. Summarizing and citing sources. Now these ones were kind of more complex. So then I said, okay, give me a more classroom friendly version or a 10th grade friendly version of a summary. So it gave me in a different chat, it gave me some summaries. So I copied over the citations and said, okay, summarize these. So here is in a summary of those, as well as here's a summary of those, as well as how a little more nuanced on the causes of WW1, based on a source-based analysis. Now, you clearly would not be copying and pasting these over into just making these your newspaper article. You clearly would be using these to help summarize a short article or summarize a short talk on the causes of World War I. But and remember, your 3 to 4 minutes, it really isn't that much. So as you're looking at a comparative analysis, as you're looking at an analysis, but it's probably going to be a little bit more nuanced than what I discussed in class. So again, these aren't the be all end all, but like Margaret McMillan talking about that statesmen made choices that could go the other way, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get into all the details, but you see how it gives you and you can easily make citations from this. So as long as you're not just copying and pasting this, you're using this as your research, totally fine. That's a legal use of AI. That is a legitimate use of AI. So then that would meet the requirements of looking at your disclosure and saying I used AI to help me to summarize research. That's a totally legal use of the AI to help me summarize the research and find the research. Now, that what I didn't want to demonstrate on the video. That actually you have to be patient. That that takes a minute. We're using a little water and maybe affecting a few polar bears. Sorry, Anna. And going from there. So and then the propaganda poster is your second major option. Now remember, the propaganda poster is not Canva. The newspaper can be Canva. This cannot be Canva. This is hand drawn. So if you're not comfortable doing that, forget it. Then you have to do one of the other 2 options. It needs to be larger than 8.5 by 11. Needs to be larger than 8.5 by 11. It doesn't have to be like 16 by 20, but it needs to be larger than 8.5 by 11. in my cabinet, there's in the center cabinet, there's some paper. I forgot to get it out. You can neatly get it out if necessary, and look at art supplies above there in my cabinet if you need to neatly. So again, there's a whole bunch of examples on this slideshow of different ideas that you can have for propaganda. I'm not necessarily going to do a propaganda lesson. 10th graders, I know this was covered a lot last year. The propaganda lesson was covered a lot last year, so I think we're good. We're good there. If you're unclear on that, don't do that option. And remember, the second part of that is the document questions. And document questions, a summary of the war, answering these reading comprehension questions, some video questions, World War I in 5 minutes, and then document questions on the causes of WW1, and then World War I in 5 minutes, the one mistake that changed the war forever, and how did the war end? And then this is just a reading on the major points of the war. Okay, option 3 is one of these two, the propaganda poster, the document questions, and then of course following along with notes in class, word walls, ed puzzles, and so on. All of you will be following along with the major pair decks, and lessons will be created in addition to each of these options. And all of you will include an A disclosure statement of the projects will not be scored. So however you're doing that. With the propaganda, you're typing in, okay, a paragraph in addition and submitting that, what the artwork means, why it's relevant, and so on. So, and what's your rationale for recruiting troops, buying war bonds, demonizing enemy? Remember I said, no U.S. No U.S. No U.S. perspective. We are doing European perspective here. This is world history, not U.S. history. Okay. For those of you choosing option 3, one of the things you should work on today is WR4. This is part of the requirement for taking the test if you want a decent score, if you want decent target scores in the test. So this is basically asking you to identify the main causes, checkpoint them, and then explain them. And classifying some of these documents as to whether it was militarism, alliances, imperialism, or nationalism as a main cause. And remember, you're also doing one of the options as well. So you have other things to do, like summarizing those articles, summarizing those articles, and looking at summarizing those articles and looking at the video questions and the causes of World War I. Remember, the documents are right here, and you're answering the questions as they're listed in, if this would ever open up, answering the questions as they're listed here as to what caused WW1. I think I've covered it, and again, this is what you're working on today. What am I going to be due? Let's at least probably Monday, Tuesday of next week. But you've got an entire class period to work on this today. And again, sorry I didn't get out the posters or get out some larger white paper. I think there's some in my cabinet, in my center cabinet, if necessary. But again, those drawings need to be neat. It's one of the few times that I'm nixdaying paper. Now the newspaper you can use Canva layout for that. I don't expect that to be in a hand drawing. In fact, that probably, it would not be a good idea to make that hand drawn. I don't think you could design that. I think Canva will give you that template. If you're looking for decent examples during your passing template across Saab's room, there's some good examples. I think Ms. Garceau has posted of different pieces of propaganda if you're choosing that particular option. So you should be able to get going today. I can come back obviously Wednesday, Thursday, clarify questions. I'm happy to do that. If emailing me isn't gonna, I'm not gonna really respond to that in terms of like trying to re-explain things via email. So hold off on your questions. Sorry to do that, but I think you've got enough to at least get you started for today. Okay. All right. I will see you on Wednesday.